2channel is a large anonymous message board in Japan, similar to Reddit or 4chan. It has had a significant impact on Japanese internet culture, creating memes and slang. This channel will mainly introduce occult content posted on 2channel. My only supernatural experience happened only at my friend A's house. At that time, A was troubled by a stalker. Feeling that her life was in danger, she decided to move. She hurriedly went to a real estate agent and asked if there were any properties available to move into as soon as possible. The agent showed her a property with unbelievable conditions, a 2 LDK apartment near the bustling city center, no deposit or key money, available immediately, and for less than 60,000 yen. I thought, this is too suspicious. Sensing my unease, the real estate agent said, "I'll be honest with you. There had been some violent incidents, but no one had died in this apartment. When you come home, the room is often ransacked, and it once required calling the police. Tenants claiming there was a woman living there would leave within 6 months. Exorcisms and other attempts had been made, but they had no effect. I thought it was dangerous. However, I only asked, has there been an attempted arson? When told no, she signed the contract. She left a memorable line, "I'd rather have a ghost that makes a mess than an arsonist." Once she was ready, I immediately moved into the problematic apartment. With the help of the police, the stalker issue was resolved in 2 months. When my friends and I gathered to celebrate A's safety, I asked, "By the way, is the house okay?" Since moving, I hadn't mentioned any ghostly occurrences. I thought the real estate agent had exaggerated. But I casually replied, "There's a girl. She's in the closet." A's apartment had a layout with one room by the entrance, a living room further in, and another room. According to the real estate agent, the room next to the entrance was a hazard point, and that's exactly where things happened. Shoes would be thrown out of the closet and scattered around. On other days, clothes would be all over the place. From the bathroom near the hazard room, you'd see a shadow enter the room, followed by the sound of a closet door closing. When taking a bath, a shadow would appear on the glass door in front. One of these things happened at least once a day. A was stylish and rarely threw away clothes. Even after about 10 years, she wore the clothes from back then. Apparently, I used the hazard room as her dressing room, and the ghost would coordinate outfits with her clothes. The clothes, from top to bottom, sometimes including shoes and bags, would be placed on the floor. The ghost's fashion sense was horrendous. I would mutter about giving a score of 15 points or something before going out. When she returned, shoes from the dressing room would be mixed up. Underwear would be stuffed into bags. Outfits would be separated instead of kept together. I would shout, "If you're going to give a low rating, improve your sense of style." While cleaning up. The next morning, there would be another new outfit. And, of course, it was still terribly unfashionable. It was like watching Tom and Jerry. I had no spiritual sensitivity, so I had never seen a ghost before. I never mentioned anything about being strangled or attacked, which made me mistakenly think that ghosts weren't scary. Wanting to see a ghost, my friend B and I decided to stay at A's place. We bought some drinks and went to A's house, which was in a prime location. It wasn't the kind of apartment a university freshman should be able to live in. Inside, there was no sense of heavy or unpleasant air. In fact, it looked like a model room, very clean as expected of A. Anyone who saw the place wouldn't believe it had ghosts. Since B was a morning bath person, we decided to shower first. Following A, who said she would get us pajamas from the hazard room, we headed there. When we opened the door and looked inside, I was so embarrassed that I collapsed and sat down. Inside the dimly lit room, something human-shaped was hanging and swaying. Just as A said, even now, I can't recall anything about it. Even though I was staring at the hanging figure with my legs giving way, I can't remember what kind of clothes it was wearing, its face, body type, or even if its skin was flesh-colored. B and I looked into the room over A's shoulder. All I remember is that it was a human-shaped figure hanging and swaying. B made a sound like "uck." And A said, "Oh, a new technique." B immediately closed the door, but A said, "You two are okay with just t-shirts and shorts, right?" And went inside to bring out changes for both of us. "Is it still there?" "Still hanging." No, it wasn't there anymore. A's calm demeanor was impressive. That was the first time I saw something like in a horror movie. Maybe it's excited because we have guests. A's cheerful mood seemed odd too. Boo. I couldn't even think about using the bath in this atmosphere. Sometimes it stands behind the door, but that's about it. If you think of it as just a pattern on the door, it's nothing to worry about. But fear is fear, so I let A bathe first. B and I, avoiding looking at the door, huddled together while listening to Kiss. I still remember that moment vividly. Now, whenever I want to boost my mood, I naturally listen to Kiss. Encouraged by A, who came out of the bath saying, "It's nothing," it was my turn. I was extremely nervous. I quickly undressed and opened the door, only to collapse again. I think my back was ruined that night. Above the shower head, around the junction of the ceiling and wall, there were handprints. They were dark handprints. I thought, blood? It's not nothing. But by then I was tearful and terrified. I briefly wondered if A had set it up as a prank, but A, who was fastidious about cleanliness and believed the dirt in the house is the dirt in the heart, would never dirty the water areas. It was the ghost greeting. I wrapped a bath towel around myself and returned to the living room. When A saw me, she said, "It's just the door pattern, right?" But it was on the wall. I didn't want to see handprint patterns. I complained while taking A to the bath. B was pulling on my bath towel and following me, which made me worried I'd end up exposed. When I peeked at A's face, who was intently staring at the bathroom, her usually gentle and beautiful face had turned into a fierce expression. It was genuinely terrifying to see A, who was usually so cheerful, angry. At that moment, she was scarier than the hanging figure or the handprints. I wanted to slap myself for being scared of ghosts. I realized that A's anger was far more frightening. I went to the hazard room silently. While B and I were huddled together, we heard a banging sound which later turned out to be A kicking the closet door and then A's yelling, "Hey, you fat idiot! What are you doing in someone else's house? Don't get cocky when you're just a freeloader who doesn't even pay rent. Pranks and harassment are different. Be humble, as you are being allowed to stay here. Guests are not to scare, but to be entertained." After a thorough scolding, I finished with, "Clean it up before you leave. If you don't, your room will become the washing machine starting today. I'll make it spin every day." Then, I returned. Apologizing, she said, "Sorry, let's go for a drink outside," and with an apologetic look, I couldn't refuse. B kept murmuring spinning the whole time, apparently finding it hilarious. After moving to a nearby bar and taking a breather, the terror began to fade. What was more troubling was A's transformation into a fierce demeanor. Despite her previous calm and cheerful attitude toward the ghostly disturbances, I couldn't understand why she was so angry. According to A, the reason she got so angry was the dried substance wasn't blood, which would have been darker and red. It was probably dried mud. Unlike blood, mud accumulates in the drain when washed away. She couldn't tolerate having her newly cleaned bathroom dirtied. Regarding the fat idiot comment, the handprints were left by someone with a big hand. Despite the handprints looking smaller, the gaps between the fingers were almost non-existent, so she assumed they were from a fat person. "You're so calm. We weren't looking at it that closely. We debated whether ghosts could clean up after themselves. If they can make a mess, they should be able to clean it too. We often hear about things getting ruined or dirtied in ghost stories, but there's rarely mention of what happens afterward. Maybe the handprints are still there." We discussed this while heading back to the room with a dejected A, contemplating a thorough cleaning. We stayed at the bar for about 2 hours. It was getting close to the first train of the Yamanote line, and since it was summer, it was quite bright, making returning to the room less frightening. When I went to the bath first, there were no traces of the handprints, and everything was spotless. Although A was supposed to have bathed before, there was no moisture left, and it seemed like the whole bathroom had been wiped down. I remember clearly. A was in high spirits, saying, "See? You can do it," as she entered the hazard room. "Pranks are fine, but harassment isn't. Let's live with mutual consideration," she said to the ghost. However, with A's angry remarks and the perfectly clean bathroom, it felt a bit like Cinderella. Since that day, the ghost's name has been Cinderella. When I woke up, it was already past noon. I was about to borrow the bath that I missed the previous day when A came and offered me some clothes to wear home. She brought a red t-shirt, a Saks blue mini skirt, and dark brown thigh-high socks. Also, a denim jacket, a floral camisole, and denim shorts, an intriguing denim-on-denim combo. I repeat, A is stylish. She wouldn't normally put together an outfit like this. The thigh-highs were from early spring, so it was a seasonally inappropriate outfit. I must have looked bewildered, thinking, "You want me to wear this home?" "This is today's Cinderella outfit," she said. "It's like a punishment game. This is the first time I've had two outfits ready, so it must be for both of you." It wasn't laughably bad but rather an outfit so awkward that you'd avert your gaze. It was an unwelcome gesture. This was my first ghost experience. Since then, I stayed over a few times, but I only ever saw a shadow through the bathroom door once and got a strangely rhythmic knock while using the toilet. The Cinderella outfits were prepared every time I stayed, but there was no sign of improvement in the ghost fashion sense. Sometimes, when I'd ask, "How's Cinderella doing lately?" A would reply, "She seems to like music from the Beatles or the Rolling Stones because the door to the room slightly opens when I play those. She doesn't like metal or any other CDs, they get swapped out." I couldn't find any of my fluffy, high-quality towels, but I found them in the closet after searching. I would only share these warm and fuzzy episodes. According to A, when she first moved in, the real stalker was scarier, and she hated going outside. At the same time, she felt lonely staying in the apartment alone. When the assertive Cinderella showed up, A said she felt relieved. She never seemed surprised and even talked to the ghost, indicating she must have been quite stressed out, and no longer lives there. I found that the apartment was listed on a rental website last year, and the rent and everything else were at normal rates. Cinderella is no longer in that apartment. Despite everything A did, she never got surprised or moved out like the previous tenants did. Perhaps it was because we, as visitors, reacted in a way that raised the ghost spirits, leading to the bathroom incident. I mentioned that thanks to that, she was able to properly discipline the ghost, and I realized that for A, Cinderella was treated somewhat like a silly pet dog. I continued living in that apartment even after graduating from university. The term Cinderella stopped coming up in conversations, and I had almost completely forgotten about it. When we went out for a meal after a long time, I mentioned she was moving out. She was going to live with her boyfriend and needed to reduce some belongings. She invited me to take any clothes I wanted from the ones she was discarding, so I stayed over at A's place for the first time in years. At that time, I had completely forgotten about Cinderella. While chatting about how it was a shame to move out of such a good location, I entered the nostalgic hazard room. And there it was. In front of the large chest of drawers at the back of the room, someone was sitting in Caesar, facing away from me. It was still just a person sitting in Caesar, and I couldn't recall the details of their body shape or color. But it was definitely there. Cinderella. When I turned on the light, there was no one there, only clothes scattered messily from packing boxes. "Is Cinderella still here?" I asked. "Yes, she's doing well," I replied. That wasn't what I meant. I wasn't as surprised as before. I should have been shocked and scared to the point of being paralyzed back then, but now I just thought, "Oh, it's Cinderella," and accepted it calmly. While choosing the clothes I was going to take, I was strangely bothered by the messy room. When I mentioned it didn't seem like A, she said, "Even if I pack, everything is opened up again when I come home from work." Unlike A, who complained about how nothing was progressing, I started wondering if the ghost was somehow haunting the place. "Is Cinderella doing this?" I asked. "Maybe she's said that I'm leaving," I replied. "Isn't that bad?" I asked. "Yes, at this rate, I won't be able to move out on time. It's bad." "That's not what I meant." She likes kimonos because she sits in front of them when I'm air drying them. She never plays tricks with kimonos, I said. Was she in front of the chest earlier? I asked. Yes, she was. I'd give away a kimono if it was just one, but if there's one in the closet, it won't find a new owner, I said. Someone like you will move in, I said. Then Cinderella won't be lonely, I said. Of course, Cinderella didn't respond. But I thought she was probably listening. I have no sensitivity to spirits. I consider ghost stories as entertainment, and when people talk about having some sensitivity, I inwardly laugh it off. Still, for some reason, Cinderella was always real to me, and that remains true. After gathering the clothes I was taking, I borrowed a shower and went to sleep. A's place was as spotless as ever, and Cinderella's mischief hadn't occurred even once. A's training had been effective. The only thing that remained was the Cinderella outfit. The set handed to me right after waking up had the power to blow away sleepiness. It was a pastel pink skirt, a navy jacket, and black short boots. It was June at the time. When fashion is too pointed, it becomes more awkward. In fact, Cinderella had the sharpest style. The first thing I did when I got home was search for rental information. I looked up properties within walking distance of the nearest station and searched relentlessly for listings. I found A's property information within 2 to 3 minutes. The rent and initial costs were all in line with the market, and there was no mention of it being an accident property. Maybe the real estate agents had decided that since A had lived there for over 6 years, there was nothing left. But Cinderella was definitely still there. The reason I'm writing this now is because, just a few days ago, I talked to A about Cinderella for the first time in years. A had only sent me a message saying she had moved out the month after I stayed over. I was a bit scared to ask what had happened to Cinderella, so I could only make small talk. During the conversation about the upcoming live-action Disney movie, the topic came up. The Cinderella who was at A's house was chubby, but the movie Cinderella is beautiful, I said. Maybe she liked kimonos because she was chubby. She couldn't fit into my clothes if she wore Western-style clothes, I replied. She was in front of the chest. That was surprising. Now she's in the chest. She's still there. Does she still appear? More importantly, if she followed A, isn't that a problem? How can A know that she followed her? Are you okay, A? A? Despite my rapid-fire questions, A was still smiling. After that, packing and having everything scattered around continued to be a cycle, and it really seemed like I wouldn't be able to finish in time. So, I decided to leave one of my kimonos, which had a design and color too young to wear anymore, in the closet. I'll give you this kimono if you like. I'm going to have a child and won't be living alone anymore. If Cinderella shows up, it would be a bit troublesome for me. If we can maintain the same considerate distance as before, let's go together. From the day I said that, the packing was no longer disturbed, so I quickly finished packing. When I asked why A thought Cinderella followed them, they explained that sometimes one of the drawers in the chest, where Cinderella's kimono was stored, would be found slightly open. It's a rare occurrence and not particularly concerning, but the drawer being wide open seemed very much like Cinderella's style. I'm thinking I'll have it burned along with me when I die. I thought I'd never be able to match A's resolve in this. With this, I wondered if there was any shadow over A's life due to being haunted. But A's life seems like a perfect picture of happiness. In these times, it's quite rare to see such smooth sailing. The marriage is good, and the child is adorable. Even in the newly purchased house, no paranormal phenomena are reported. Except for the walk-in closet that A uses as a costume room. I'm thinking of bringing up Cinderella again in about 5 years. But I doubt I'll hear any ghost stories as we know them. That's the conclusion B and I have come to. I hope Cinderella will at least change jobs to something like a chubby Zashiki Arashi, a type of Japanese spirit.